Hello, V Church. Once again, welcome to day number 3 of our week of talking about just the foundational principle that gratitude and thankfulness brings into our life. So yesterday we talked about the fact that there's nothing that we have not received. And so because of that, then there becomes there's such an attitude of humility in our life. And so we talked even about people that are super savvy business-wise. There's a verse in the Old Testament that says that he gives them power to gain wealth. And I just love that verse because, again, everything is because of God. What we have, any great advances we make, any great successes we have in our life, they are absolutely come from a divine source. And when we recognize that and when we understand that, then everything becomes something that we're so appreciative for. Everything becomes a gift into our life. So it doesn't matter what it is, just being able to just take a good, solid, deep breath. That's a gift when we understand that it's Him who grants us, even that holds this whole thing together so that we can take a good, solid, deep breath. No matter what it is, it's that we receive, then we have gratefulness and we have thankfulness because it's nothing that we've earned and it's really nothing that we deserve. Now, are we so desperately loved by our Father? Yes, but is it anything on our own doing? He loved us when we were still so far from Him. And so it's, again, all because of Him. And so because of that, everything is such a gift in our life. And when we know that and we understand that, it becomes a foundational belief system. And so gratitude and thankfulness become just the natural offspring, in a sense, of that foundational belief system in our life. And so what is that we have? It's humility. So what I'm saying is that when we understand that everything that we have is not from our own greatness, but because of our great God, then that is humility. And that is why this Thanksgiving, this whole thankful thing, it's so critical. We said early on in the first day that thankfulness is like a highway that the commodities of heaven are delivered on. It is like the key that unlocks greater access, so to speak, into the provision of God in our lives so that we can personally experience it. That's what thankfulness does. Thankfulness brings about in our life humility. And humility is such a major thing in our lives as a Christ follower. Why? Because first of all, James tells us that, and Peter tells us exactly the same thing, that God gives grace to the humble. He opposes the proud, but He gives grace to the humble. What is grace? Well, grace is the power of God, the strength of God, the ability of God that infuses us with Himself, that is able to do above what we normally would be able to do on our own. It is the favor of God in our life. The grace of God is a multifaceted thing that absolutely is remarkable. And so when we are humble, then we have this grace of God like overflowing in our life, the provision of God in an unbelievable way. Whereas with pride, there is this opposition of God. It never goes well. It feels like we're just kind of fighting. It's just not quite right. There's not just that free favor, so to speak. Why? It's because of pride. And so God gives grace to the humble. And then Proverbs teaches us many things about humility, is that humility is actually the predecessor, to be honest, of riches and honor and life. And so pride comes before destruction and haughtiness comes before a fall, but humility comes before riches and honor and life. God says that He crowns the humble with victory. That's an amazing verse. He crowns the humble with victory. And so the whole thing is that for those that are humble, God is working just hugely in their life. In every area of their life, God is just manifesting Himself. Why? Because He gives such grace to the humble. We walk in His provision in a supernatural way when we walk in humility. And the predecessor of humility is thankfulness. That's why thankfulness is such a integral part of our Christian life. It is something that we want to be very intentional and very deliberate about developing in our life, because thankfulness opens doors that would never open without that being a foundational part of our life. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.